are okay. Good. All right. So this week we're into Parshas Re'eh. A lot of mitzvos in Parshas Re'eh, and I'd like to, well, let's start backwards. All right. When I say backwards, I don't mean the very end of the parsha, um, which happens to be the three pilgrim festivals of Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. And interestingly, um, unlike in Emor, where you have the Yomim Noroyim, here you don't have Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. You just have Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. And perhaps one reason for that might very well be, who is Moshe talking to? Moshe is talking to those who are about to go into Eretz Yisrael. Remember, this is Sefer Devarim, the last 37 days of Moshe's life. And the idea is that he's talking to those who will be Ole Regel, right? As the Parsha concludes. Now let's take a look at the very end of the Parsha. As I said, working backwards, okay? The next to the last pasuk on page 1022, at the end of Sukkos, Shalosh Pamim Bashana, thrice yearly, your males are all to appear, as Pnei Hashem Elokecha, in the place that He, Hashem, will choose, meaning in the Beis Hamikdash, in Chag HaMatzos, Chag HaShavuos, and Chag HaSukkos, and Lo Yera'eh is Pnei Hashem Reikam. And one is not permitted, okay, to come to the Beis Hamikdash empty-handed, okay? Now, let's just take a peek and see if this is counted as one of the Taryag. Yes, the very last mitzvah in Parshas Re'eh, and the Chinuch has this as mitzvah 490, okay?
Then do another blanket?
No, Sham, not to come to the Beis Hamikdash below Korban. Now, listen carefully. So the Torah says you can't come empty-handed. Ish kematnas yado, and that's why this is always read when we say Yizkor, and it's called matnas yado, each person in accordance with their ability. Now look in the Rashi, 3 lines up from the bottom left-hand column, page 1022. You're not to come to God empty-handed. Ella have, bring olos re'iyah. Olos re'iyah means a korban ola, and this is in honor of re'iyah, you're coming, as the pasuk says, shalosh pamim bashana yera'eh. Excuse me, will be seen. So see the words inside, next to the last line, Rashi, left-hand column. Olos re'iyah and shalmei chagiga. Shalmei chagiga means the korban shlomim as the, in honor of the festival. Now listen carefully. We know that on the night of the Pesach Seder, your dessert was the Korban Pesach, okay? Now, and that was a lamb chop. What did you have before that as your, quote, main? I know what your dessert is, but what is your main? And the answer to that is, look in the Rashi, next to the last line, Shalmei Chagiga. You brought a shlomim, and the shlomim was eaten again by probably the same number. Well, you needed more because, let's say, for argument's sake, there are 40, I don't know, someone has to get back to me on an approximate number. Okay, Hershon, you'll get back to me, Lee Neder, about how many chops are there in a lamb. In other words, a lamb chop. Don't tell me that's not exactly the first thing on the menu across the street, but we just need to know. All right. So, but think about it. And we're saying that we need to have a kazayas of the Korban Pesach. All right. So, how many kazasim really are there in the lamb? Now, here, in order to reach the state of satiation, right, that you are now eating the korban as your dessert, and you are satiated, you became satiated from the Shalmei Chagiga. Now, you remember every year that you have on your Seder plate, right, various foods, and one of them is the egg. Now, we usually attribute the egg to the idea of Avelus, unfortunately, that the same night of the Pesach Seder is the night of Tisha B'Av. All right? Now, please God, that association is going to change because Tisha B'Av is no longer going to be a sad day. It's no longer going to be a fast day. It's going to be a holiday. Okay? So the other explanation for what the egg is doing on the Seder plate is that it reminds us of the Korban Chagiga. Now watch. Interesting. In order to define what is a festive meal, I need two cooked foods. Interesting. And it's for that reason, number one, that the night of the Pesach Seder is our Thanksgiving celebration. And therefore, you celebrate with a festive meal, by definition, at least two cooked foods. Now, what are the two cooked foods on the night of the Pesach Seder? The Chagiga and the Korban Pesach. So again, we have the roasted shank bone as a reminder to us of the Korban Pesach, and the egg comes as a reminder to us of this Chagiga. Now I'm bringing this all together for everybody to realize that when it says in the very last verse, "Lo yera'eh es panei Hashem reikam," you're not to come empty-handed. I'm going to read to you. It's a very short paragraph. Shalom na'aleh, we should not come up lebeis habchira, Mrs. 490, boregel, below korban shenakriv sham. Hu ha-korban shepirashnu lamala b'seder zeh shenikra olas re'iyah, the korban ola, which is burnt entirely on the altar. Ola, it ascends completely without anybody eating thereof. And that's what it says. Well, Yeruah es Panei Hashem Reikam Perish Panai Kemo Lifanai, before me. Okay. Vizos Hara, okay, Eino Noheges B'Nekevos. This does not apply to women. Kimo Mitzvahs Aseh Haba Imzeh Eino Noheges Bohen. Okay, so very interesting that Lehera Os, the previous mitzvah, is to appear in the Beis Hamikdash on the festivals. Okay, and just 1 second. The mitzvah is defined by the chinuch. Sheyaleh kol adam. I'm sorry, here goes. Im ben zochar sheyeshlo. Okay, to come with your male children and to be, quote, seen thereby. You come to see and be seen. And as part of this, to bring the korban, good. And this korban, as it says in the next verse, Ish kematnas yado, it has no minimum, meaning even a pigeon. All right, if a person is impoverished, he doesn't have to bring the ox. Person is wealthy, so we have from one extreme to the other. Okay, and he reminds us that there are 3 independent mitzvos. We should all get excited about this, that we are commanded regarding each of the festivals. Chagiga, that's common to all 3. Korban Pesach is only on Pesach. Chagiga, the festive offering. Re'iyah, which is the ola. So Chagiga is a shlamim, which you eat. You, Mr. Cohen, the Mizbeach. Re'iyah is the korban ola, and simcha, right? And the mitzvah of simcha. Now, how do you define simcha? Okay, v'samachta b'chagecha, which again is found in this last paragraph of this week's parsha, and we apply it from Sukkos, which is the happiest of the holidays, to the other 2 as well. Now, again, the first thing is that, I'm going to show you a very nice understanding of the word simcha. So keep your left hand or your right hand on 1022 and go to, okay, here we are, 1072. Now, what's happening on 1072? You're in Pashas Kisavo, and the Torah is describing on this chapter 27, okay? The Torah is describing opening day, and this is amazing, all right? Pasuk 2, 1072. Bayom asher ta'avru es hayarden, on the day that you cross over the Jordan to the land which Hashem is giving you. First of all, you were to place stones, all right? And you are to literally coat them with plaster. Now, interestingly, if we discuss this when we get to Kisavo, this is not counted as one of the 613. Why? Because the rule is that we don't count mitzvos that are
Do what?
a one-time observance. Okay? Something which happened once is not to be counted as a mitzvah. But if the Torah puts it, in the Torah, why do we need to know what happened once in Jewish history? So even though it might not be considered one of the 613, it's clearly there to teach us different ideas. So watch. The first thing is that, number one, these stones, interestingly, are very challenging because look at verse 3. You shall inscribe on these stones all the words of this Torah when you cross over, that you may enter the land that Hashem your God gives you, a land flowing with milk and honey. Okay. Now, these stones are to remind us of, I remember seeing the nice shot of the Barbanel, that these stones are like a mezuzah. Whoa. When I enter your home and I see a mezuzah on the front door as I'm about to go into your home, it's like a mission statement. Namely, that Torah is observed in this home. Whoa. Similarly, as they enter the land of Israel, they're putting stones. Now, whether miraculously you have the entire Torah inscribed on it, or some say literally 613 was inscribed, Taryag, that the number itself reminded us, welcome to the land of Israel, where you now have an opportunity to observe 613 mitzvot. But now, why did I bring you here? How do you define happiness? So I remember years ago, forgive me, but there was a commercial for Kent cigarettes, and there was a jingle, happiness is ta-da-ta-da, and it showed you different people, different circumstances, what happiness was for them. So for a bowler, it was a strike, and for a golfer, it was a hole-in-one. And for a smoker, it was a Kent. All right, it was a cute kind of a commercial. But now, how does the Jew define happiness? Because we just saw a second ago that there are three, again, why are we doing this? Because in this week's parsha, we are taught that there are three positive mitzvos that are in conjunction with each of the pilgrim festivals. In other words, aside from eating matzah and aside from, the korban omer, not omer, because omer is on the second day of Pesach, but on Shavuos, the korban of shtei alechem. Aside from, and on Sukkos, the Sukkot, the Arba Minim, aside from these particular mitzvos of each holiday, there is a common obligation on each of the three of simcha, chagiga, and re'iyah. Okay, those three terms are on your midterm. So I know what re'iyah is. It's a korban olah. I know what chagiga is. It's a korban shlomim. What is simcha? So Rabbi Soloveitchik, take a look on page 1072. Very sharp. And the Torah says that at opening day, take a look, verse 7. All right? Towards the end of this paragraph, V'zovachto shlomim, and you, this is verse 7, you shall slaughter peace offerings, v'ochalto sham, and eat there, v'samachta, and you shall literally rejoice, you shall be happy or glad, l'fnei Hashem Elokecha, before God. meaning the realization that you are before God. Whoa, that gives the Jew happiness. A very interesting idea. Look at the closeness. And you are to be happy. And for that reason, take a look, everybody, on page, come on, 688. Watch. 688, verse 40. Ulekachtem lochem, you, the nation, are to take Bayom Rishon on the first day of Sukkot, and the Torah lists the 4 species: Bri Tzodar, the Esro, Tapos Tvarim, the Lulav, Anafetz Avos, the Adasim, Arvi Nochal, the Aravos. And then watch, Usmachtem, you are to rejoice. Lifnei, now you see, that's why, whoa, everything we touch has deep meaning to it. The trup, the cantillation, the way it's sung, is also the punctuation. Excuse me. So one could have read the verse, take the 4 species, and instead of the asnachta, as you have by the nun, in the word nochal, the arve nochal, which means that that's where the comma or semicolon is going, you could have read it, Anafetz ovos arve nochal usmachtem. Take the 4 species and be happy. But no, the esnachta tells us where to pause. Take the 4 species, comma, lochem, you, throughout the land of Israel, usmachtem, lifnei Hashem Elokeichem, shivas yomim, and you are to rejoice before Hashem for 7 days in the Beis Hamikdash. So lifnei Hashem, once again, is where your simcha is, to rejoice before God. The Jew understands that when she is in the presence of God, now we're always in the presence of God, but the idea is that I go for this pilgrimage, and according to the Vilna Gaon, he thought that this was one of the most challenging mitzvos in the Torah, for a person to be in a state of simcha for 7 days. Whoa. And to not to think and be negatively distracted about any and mundane challenge that they might have. Okay. All right. I didn't realize I'd be spending so much time on this. Okay.
Rabbi.
Yes, my friend.
The portions in the lamb for lamb chops are 16.
16 chops to a lamb?
Yeah.
Thank you. Wow. So now the question is,
Thank you, Mandy.
Well, that's very, very interesting.
Rabbi.
Yeah, hold on 1 second though.
Okay.
In other words, now it gets even more technical. You have to tell me, I guess let's work in grams. How many grams is a kazayas, right? Kazayas does not mean the size of an olive, but the volume of an olive. And the question is, from a lamb chop, don't get me wrong, that each of us are growing boys and girls, and we can all take a full lamb chop for dessert. Maybe no. Maybe you're not going to get a whole lamb chop, because remember, think about it. The Korban Pesach was not brought until the afternoon, okay, in the Beis Hamikdash on Erev Pesach. And again, as we say every morning in the Korbanos, okay, hold on a second. I'm reaching for a sitter. All right, let's do this slowly so that I came on this morning and I heard Mendy saying we should bench with a sitter, and he's right. And slowly we understand what's going on. So take a look at page 48 towards the very end of Korbanos. So paragraph 8, Mishnah 8 in the Perek of Ezu Makoman, and this is the next to the last line, HaPesach Einu Nechol Ela Balayla, one of the few exceptions, all right, of a korban. It's brought during the day, but it's eaten at night. Einu Nechol, on the night that clearly we obtained our liberation. Einu Nechol Ela Ad Chatzos. Mishnah follows the opinion of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah only till mid the night, because that's when the firstborn were killed at mid the night, and we celebrate before it happened. And it's only eaten by those registered for it. And what does that mean? You had to be part of a group, because nobody is capable of eating the entire lamb by themselves. And the lamb had to, the korban, the Torah says explicitly, don't leave any over for the morning. So I suspect that there's more than 16 people to a korban pesach. If we're dealing with several million people and you're only getting 16 portions from that animal, you're going to need so many more animals. If we're working with Mendy's number, that there are 16 chops, how many kizesim are there in a lamb chop? And so maybe if the lamb chop contains perhaps 3 kizesim, even not just 2, but 3, then, and this is obviously going to be determined on how large a kazayas is, then 3 times 16 is 48. That's a different story. If you figure almost 50 people to a korban pesach, that would work probably in terms of, and that's why how many thousands and thousands of animals were brought. And now you can appreciate why the Azara, why the courtyard of the Beis Hamikdash was so large, because on Erev Pesach, you have thousands and thousands of people bringing a korban, and this is representing, right, all of Klal Yisrael. It's incredible. Okay, thank you, Mendy. Thank you. All right,
Rabbi,
yes.
one quick question. What do we learn from the word Ra'eh?
From the word what? Re'eh, from the very first
Yes.
word of the parasha?
Yes.
Okay. Whoa. So the literal translation could even be behold. I mean, let's take a look. How does Art Scroll translate the first verse in the parasha? See, from the word re'iyah, to look. Okay. So see could be literal with your glasses. Oh, my eyes are good without it. I don't need the help of glasses to actually see, or the idea of beholding is to understand, which oftentimes they're used interchangeably. So when a math teacher will say, do you see the problem? So he's not asking if your contact lenses are in or you're wearing your glasses or not. He means if you understand. So certainly while Onkelos as well translates the word as chazeh, which once again means literally to see, but I suspect that, and hold on, interesting, Rashi tells you that the blessing and the curse is referring to that which I was showing you before in Kisavo of the two mountains. And on my very first trip to Israel, I was able to go from a distance to Shechem, where unfortunately, it's not safe yet to go today. I was able to go and see Har Grizim and Har Eval, and literally, it's easy to remember which one is which. Grizim is green. I saw this myself, that there is vegetation growing on one of the mountains, which is the mountain of blessing, and Har Eval, which is the other mountain, which is the mountain of literally Klola, curse, bare. Nothing grows on it. Okay, so according to Rashi, it's basically Re'eh, you'll take a look and you're going to see these two mountains, and it's almost like, the mountains themselves are going to be communicating to you a specific message. Okay, so like I said, we're always learning interesting, different things. I want to show you one or two.
Rabbi,
Yes, go ahead.
a quick question. What's, I don't know if it's more important or whatever, between Shema, we say Shema a lot of times in Devarim, and Re'eh, we have a couple of times, we're supposed to see. So are we supposed to hear? Are we supposed to see? Or are we supposed to do both? And if you can't see, do you eat?
Okay, Rabbi. So the answer is clearly, and let me, if I can, come on, bring you back to the Haftorahs. If you take a look here, go to page 1193. So this was before Tisha B'Av. This was the second. And if you look, the way the layout is, you can see on the right, 1192. It's worth taking a look at, everybody. The opening word of the three Haftorahs, the 3 weeks before Tisha B'Av. The first one are Divrei, the words of. The second one, Sam, Shim'u, hear. And the third one is Chazon, which is to see, vision, to see. So once again, I have this repetition of hearing, seeing. It's like the Navi is addressing all, of our senses. And your point is a good one, that in this week's Parsha as well, it starts with vision, and the idea of, hearing is one that, we just had in Akef, Shema Yisrael, beginning of chapter 9. So your point is a good one. The Torah, so to speak, gets us involved on all senses. Now, let me just go to page 1016. I want to just share with you one word which is found in the chinuch. Remember, the chinuch is explaining the mitzvos. So among the 55 mitzvos found in Re'eh is the mitzvah of tzedakah. And that's why it's worth pointing this out on page 1016, starting with verse 7 through verse 11. So 7 through 11 are the mitzvah of tzedakah, and needless to say, by now we know there are no extra words. I want to point out the following, okay? Now, let me tell you, this is mitzvah 479, according to the chinuch. And what is his heading for this mitzvah? To give tzedakah, charity, for lack of a better word, even though I don't like the translation of tzedakah as charity, because if you look in Webster, I'm sure he's going to use the word voluntary as part of his definition, meaning I don't have to give charity. I'm a nice guy. I do it because I am so moved to so do. Okay? As opposed to the, mitzvah of charity, as we call it in English. No, you are obligated, key word, to give charity, and in the heading, kamisas yodo, in accordance with your ability. One who has more gives more, ideally. One who has less is not obligated to give as much. Good.
Rabbi,
Yes, Bubby.
is it better to give someone charity, or is it better to give someone a job so he can improve
Okay,
himself?
you're right. You're right. Well, so the answer is that tzedakah includes various levels. But I want to just get the first thing to make sure I get this in. Watch. The opening line of the chinuch, and again, you guys should have a set. Well, in English, it's 5 volumes. In Hebrew, it's 1 volume, but it's mitzvah Tafayin Tes 479. And what is the mitzvah? Lasos tzedakah, listen carefully, imatzorach eleha, with those that are needy, to give to the needy. And the next 3 words are incredible. And what are the next 3 words? The next 3 words are besimcha ubetuv levav, literally with happiness and with a good heart, a good feeling, as opposed to feel, oh no, I have to. Can you come at 10:30? See you then. Thank you. So listen, you ready? Again, I believe now somebody could probably do a search on the book of Sefer HaChinuch, and you're going to tell me how many times the Chinuch defines the mitzvah by using the word simcha. In other words, this is a very important point. So I hope, listen carefully, everybody. If he would simply say, the mitzvah is to give charity with the needy, and drop those last three words, with happiness and with a good heart. Now, what does that mean? What's the difference how you give? The bottom line is, as long as you give. Let's say I give because my accountant says, Yudin, it's going to be better for you for your taxes and whatever if you give charity. Okay, so the bottom line is I go to my Orthodox rabbi, I say, give me 3 worthwhile charities. I write out a check to 3 worthwhile charities, and I'm doing it to satisfy my accountant because it's quote unquote better for my portfolio. So after all is said and done, did I give charity? Sure. Did the recipient get the check? Sure. Are they happy to get the check? Sure. Have I gotten the mitzvah? Forgive me. And it's hard to say that I didn't get the mitzvah, because I'll give you the extreme in a minute. But did I get the mitzvah in its entirety? No. What do you mean the entirety? The check did not bounce, and the check was a respectable check. So what else is required here? Whoa. So this is such an incredible idea. Now, I'm willing to bet that when the Chinuch talks about the mitzvah of tefillin, the mitzvah of mezuzah, he doesn't say, okay, Mendy, I'm telling you, when you put up the mezuzah, put it up in a state of happiness. And that's why, interestingly, don't tell me because you only have 2 hands, one hand is the hammer, and the other hand you're holding the cloth and the nail, and you don't have a third hand to hold that cup of wine. So that there's no cup of wine that accompanies the putting up of a mezuzah, even though it's my first house or my house in Israel. Okay, wow. And how happy am I to put up my mezuzah on my house in Israel? And the answer is very. But I'm still, now, no one is going to stop me if right before I put up my mezuzah, I take a cup of wine and I make a bori prea gufen. My only hesitation with that is, oh my goodness, I'm calling all my friends. And I say to my friends, look at this, guys. I want to celebrate with you. I'm putting up my mezuzah in my house in Israel, and I'm taking a cup of wine. I don't want that I should, God forbid, be misleading people to think, that a mezuzah requires a cup of wine. It doesn't, and we know it doesn't. And who says that everybody likes wine and everybody is going to be positively motivated by a cup of wine? The bottom line is that put up a mezuzah, that's it. You are happy, you're not happy. It doesn't state that, of course, yes, all mitzvot should be done in a state of happiness. That goes without saying. But there's no specific, as opposed to, take a look. Let's take a look. This is amazing. All right, watch. So, starting on 10:16, and just as well, here goes. When ki yebecha evyon, should there be, and we know there always will be, a poor person from among your brethren in one of your cities in your land, because the land of Israel comes first, okay? Lo sametzes levatecha, you should not harden your heart, and lo sikpotzes yodecha, you should not clench your fist, okay? Me'elchicha evyo, from the poor among you. Now, wait a second. Is that in of itself a negative prohibition? In other words, I have it, but someone comes knocking on my door. I say to myself, Yudin, don't be overcome by his story, and don't get moved by it, and don't. Okay, so listen carefully. Hold on. If 479 is to give, unbelievable. I love it. 478 is this verse here. Now, it's one thing I should give charity. If I don't give, again, I don't have to go to my neighbor and say to my neighbor, lend me money so I can give charity to the poor. No, that I don't have to do. But if I have, I am to give. And mitzvah, you ready? Watch. Mitzvah 478 is that this verse here, verse 7, you can sure fool me when the Torah says, don't harden your heart and don't clench your fist, meaning don't tighten up and, etc. This is a negative command. I'm reading the Chinuch now. Shlo nimna, don't hold back the chesed, the kindness, and the tzedakah from our brothers of Israel, and certainly from relatives who I'm obligated to give to first. When we know the psychological weakness, trouble that they are undergoing, and we have the ability to help them. And for this, the Torah says, and this is 10:16:7. Okay, watch. He quotes this as a negative command. Klomar, al tashlit olecha midas akilus v'anavala. Don't clothe yourself with the character trait of stinginess and negativity, but just the opposite. Prepare yourself, prepare your heart with the attribute of generosity, compassion, and don't even think that as a result, I'm just translating the Chinuch, that as a result of helping the next one, you're going to lose out on your money. Now, clearly, this has limitations. What does that mean? A person should not give all of his resources away for charity, because then, God forbid, he as well will now become needy. But 10% is something that most people can work out. And if one can, ideally, Yaakov says at the end of that dream of the ladder in Bereshis, he says to God, Chol asher titein li, whatever you're going to give me, God, aser ha'asrenu lach, I will give back to you, Hashem, aser, 10%, asrenu, 10% again. So if a person can give up to 20, wonderful. But 10, he should really try to do, okay? And
Rabbi, question.
yes.
So we know we're supposed to give the tzedakah anonymously.
Okay, now that is when you say supposed to, there are, as we know, different degrees, levels of charity. Now that is certainly the best. But there are times when, again, part of the bylaws of the Young Israel movement, I'm quite certain, is that they did not have open appeals. so that I grew up that whenever an appeal was made in the synagogue, so Mr. So-and-so, Abramowitz called out $100. Okay. And Bernstein called out $75. So,
Right.
So now there's good and there's the other to that. People are put on this spot, but maybe it's good they're put on this spot if they can afford it. They never would, if you know, and
But no, my question is,
if
if you could
Abramowitz is
reflect on,
giving, if Abramowitz is giving $100, and Bernstein is known to have a little bit more than Abramowitz, so how could Abramowitz give 75? I mean, how could Bernstein give 75 if Abramowitz gave 100? So on the one hand, yeah, the cause wins out, but like I
no,
said,
I'm going the other way.
let's not
Thank you.
forget Mr. Cohen and Mr. Deutsch. Mr. Deutsch, is one of the nicest guys in town, but barely makes a living. So when Mr. Deutsch gives his $36, maybe for him it's more of a sacrifice than Abramowitz's $100.
No.
So
No, that's not my question.
It's very
Thank you. That's my question. With all
That's
due
right.
respect, thank you. Reflect on when you give anonymously, is that harder to give with simcha and a good heart or not?
I think you're raising, an important point. The very fact that I'm giving anonymously, obviously the boss knows, but the fact that I'm not getting the quote unquote, recognition for it by my peers, that's,
Or the recipients,
and come on, if my name is Abramowitz and $100, especially in those days, was a lot of money. So, maybe I walk out of shul, don't tell me I'm only 5'8". I'm 6 feet tall, if you understand what I'm saying. So this gets exceedingly technical, but let's just not get away. I want to just show you very quickly, because I do have to go in a moment, but I want to just tell you very quickly how exciting that word is, that you are to give besimcha, you are to give with happiness. So note number one, the Torah says over here, I'm warning you, don't harden your heart. And then just look at the repetition. V'soach tiftach es yodcha, you are to surely open your hand to the needy. And the Torah uses in verse 9 on page 1016, the circumstance of, like Mendy was saying before, what's a bigger mitzvah? To give charity, to get a job. Now here the Torah speaks about lending money. But remember, when the Shemitah year comes to an end, that $1,000 that I lent you, right, becomes null and void. You don't owe it to me anymore. Whoa. So if you're asking for money in the second year, third year, the probability is I'll get my money back. But oh my goodness, we happen to be in the seventh year. And this is now, let's say, Shavuos time. So Shavuos time is in the third month in the seventh year. The loan, when Rosh Hashanah comes, Rosh Hashanah is the beginning of the seventh month. So we're talking about 4 months. So you, the borrower, can very well hide from me for 4 months. And then after Rosh Hashanah, I come and I say, Shalom Aleichem, Happy New Year to you. And you're out of your $1,000. That being the case, I'm not lending money. Look what the Torah says about that. Torah says, I'm warning you. Unbelievable. This is beware, lest there be, now lawless is a hard word to translate. Let's go, davar im levavcha b'liyal. The Torah says, lest there be a negative thought in your mind, saying, oh my goodness, take a look, that the seventh year approaches, which is the year that debts are canceled, and you will look badly upon your destitute brother and refuse to give him because after all, you don't want to lose your $1,000. And what's going to happen? As a result of this technicality, this law, he may appeal against you to Hashem and say, Hashem, look what your Torah is causing me. Your Torah is causing me that I can't pay my bills, and it will be a sin upon you. That the Torah says you shall surely give him. And not only here it is, not only do you have to give it to him, but let your heart not feel bad when you give it to him. Unbelievable. What's the difference? I gave, and the answer is no. There is a big difference that not only are you obligated to give, but you're obligated to give, as the Sefer Chinuch says, b'simcha. Unbelievable. So just one thing, how proud are you to be a Jew? All right? Not all mitzvahs are so easily fulfilled, but this one here, just to be aware of the high bar that the Torah sets for us, that, please God, this is what we should, aspire to. All right. I wanted to do more, but we got, Baruch Hashem, a little bit sidetracked at the very end, but I hope that, it's all to show the excitement of the mitzvahs. All right. Mendy, thank you. Everybody have a good day. And
A good day.
okay.
Have a great day. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, Mandy.
Thank you for joining me.
Have a good day.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mandy.
You're welcome.
You